Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 583 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Nicole Bonner. And if you want to hear a story about how to open up a practice and the difference between the students, the new grads, and associates, stay tuned. Welcome back. I have Nicole Bonner with me today. I'm really excited. This is episode 583 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. We are going to get down with shouting out to students, associates, and people that have stepped away from practice that want to get back into practice. And we'll get a bit more granular on those topics as we go. But I think we're going to stay with some of the regular form that we follow also. But these are topics that we're definitely going to talk about. So stay with us if you want to learn more about what to do as a chiropractic student when you get out of school, what to do if you're a lifetime associate, and how to transition to your own practice. And if you started a family and you had to step away from being a chiropractor, what to do at that point, and how to get back into life of practice. So I'm going to go through our regular opener now as our big why. Why do we do what we do? Is that okay, Dr. Nicole?
Sounds awesome to me.
So the big why that we do what we do is to protect freedom of speech. That's the First Amendment. If you guys need to do a refresher on that, I would recommend it. We've never censored anybody, but we do know what it's like to be a show that's been shadow banned and censored. So we just want to keep on staying consistent with our message, and that's telling the truth about chiropractic. We also support medical freedom and family health freedom. Those things are not the same, but they live in the same zone. So we also believe that chiropractors have kept medical tyranny from being a full complex that we've had to resign to. So thank you, chiropractors, for keeping families healthy and providing care to people, and keeping people, with choice. I think that's a big decision when it comes to raising a family this day and age, is having choice as to who you trust to take care of your family. And hopefully that everybody that watches this show has a chiropractor. If not, reach out to Dr. Nicole and I, and we will get you set up. Philosophically speaking, we do protect the sacred trust. It's BJ Palmer's last words. If you don't know what that means, go and stop this interview right now and go and search for BJ Palmer's sacred trust, his last words. Even if you're a chiropractor, you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And it might relight your fire if you lost it. We support subluxation-based chiropractic, and we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. I don't read that. It's all by, reference of my memory. So sometimes it changes a little bit. But this is episode 583. Dr. Nicole Bonner, welcome.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always fun to connect with you. You've always had a belief in our mission, and it's been really cool to grow with you in this profession.
Thank you. What you do for chiropractors, I absolutely love what you do for chiropractors. And one of the things I think one of the biggest ways that you support our profession is you connect us all together. Has anybody else told you that?
Yeah, that's the thing is I talk to chiropractors off air a lot, and I say, look, we've smashed the dogma. Like, you can practice any way you want to. You can have any philosophy you want to. You can be in any state you want to. You can have whatever technique is your favorite. You can have like your group as like where you like to go. You can have gone to that school. We've torn down all the walls when it comes to like bringing this profession together and unifying it. So that was really like not planned by us at Chiro Hustle, but it was really the outcome of what happened. And now we have kind of like a safe place for chiropractors to just share their stories and to talk real talk about why they love what they love and how they got into that. So yeah, I mean, it is one of those things I never really kind of like put the spotlight on, but it has been one of the things that organically has happened because of the amount of influencers that we've had onto the show and where we are today. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, I do believe that your show has contributed to unifying our profession, which is needed and supported.
Yeah, well, thank you for the recognition and noticing that. And you know, I actually, people that watch this all the time, I never made this about me. Actually, I hired a copywriter recently, and he's going to start sending out a lot of really great emails and reignite our message and through emails. And he said, I'm going to start interviewing you every week so I can learn how to write in your voice.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, I think that you have a lot to say. And he goes, I've listened to like a lot of your episodes. He's like, you really don't talk. And I was like, well, I do the intro. And he's like, yeah, and I love the intro. And he's like, and then every once in a while you ask a question, but it's always about the guest.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, check it out. The reason for that, because the show is never about me. It was about the message of chiropractic. So anyways, we're going to figure out how to better position my voice within the chiropractic profession. So I think it's going to improve over time. But yeah, the show's about you, Dr. Nicole. The show's about Dr. Lewis. It was about Dr. Jess. It's about Dr. Aaron. It's about the chiropractic like truth. And this is the other byproduct of that is now we have an irrefutable documentation of what chiropractic is, documented from the practitioner's voice. So that was the other byproduct of why the show works, is because now we have a documented 1,200 strong interviews that tells anybody out there, this is the voice of chiropractic and this is what they believe in. And this is what the profession means to them. And this is what it is. You can't change it now. Sorry.
Yep. Amen. Amen, brother. That's what we need.
So now we have some fundamental ground rules because of the documentation that we've done. So we've really done like a case study over 6.5 years to give a foundation of documentation to say, look, this is the voice of chiropractic. This is what it is. It will always be this. Thank you. Let's jump into talking to our avatar today, and that's students, associates, and new people that are out of the profession that want to get back into the profession. You're opening a practice. Let's tell people a few pieces of advice that you would share with them that are just ready to go.
Yeah. So, and you guys know this. Sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, or I sound like a broken record. But the first thing is first. It all starts in here, and the very first step is getting clarity, and really getting clarity on what you want, what your deepest desires are, what are your values. What are the things that are driving you to make the decisions that you're making. And probably the most important question that you can ever ask yourself is why. And when you ask yourself why, I want you to ask yourself why maybe 5 or 6 or even 7 different times, so that every time you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I want this? Why is this my goal? You get deeper and deeper and deeper into your most core, your most raw desire. And when you know your most raw desire, then you're going to know what's going to drive you. And when you know what drives you, then you know what fuels you. And you're going to need fuel, because opening a practice is not for chickens. So there's going to be days that you're going to need to fill your tank, and and that fuel is going to be your go get 'em.
I think you kind of remember your why. Why did you start in the first place?
Yeah. So why did I start in practice myself,
Mhm.
or why did I start mentoring people ready to open a practice?
Well, I think both is really smart to share because why did you start? And now why do you feel like mentorship and guidance is so important?
Yeah. So everybody loves to tell their story, right? And I love to tell my chiropractic story. So when my mom was pregnant, she smoked through her pregnancy back in 48 years ago. That was like an okay thing to do. I wonder, like, in 20 years from now or 40 years from now, what we're going to look back on today that we do medically that we're going to think like, oh my gosh, what were we doing, right? And my mom had a seemingly normal pregnancy, seemingly normal labor and delivery. When I was born, I was seemingly normal. Everything seemed great, fine and dandy. And then when I was like 2 years old, I had my first allergy-induced asthma attack. And Chester, the attack was so bad that my lungs stopped working, my bronchial tubes closed up, I stopped breathing, and got rushed to the hospital. And of course, they pumped me with drugs and medications, and they saved my life. But from that point on, I lived on an allergy medication every day. I lived on an asthma medication every day. I had a rescue inhaler. My immune system was so weak that I was on round after round of antibiotics. And by the time I was in the 6th grade, I was obese. I weighed the same amount that I do now as an 11-year-old little kid. And things were not looking so great, right? And so when I was 16 years old, my dad actually knew a chiropractor, and I went to work for a chiropractor, and she said, let me adjust you. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, I don't have any back pain. I don't have back problems. I want to be a medical doctor. I wanted to be a medical doctor my whole life. From the time I was 6 years old, I wanted to be an endocrinologist. Like, who at 6 years old wants to be an endocrinologist? Well, I did. I don't know why. Right. So I was 16 years old, working for this chiropractor. She checks me, and sure enough, my cervical curve is completely gone, and my atlas was like totally flat. And she started adjusting me, and my whole life was totally transformed. And my body got stronger. I'll never forget my first adjustment. And I felt the life energy, the life flow just get released in my body. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this what life is supposed to feel like? Like, I guess I felt like dead inside, right? And so my body got stronger, my immune system got stronger, and my body healed. And I got off all the medication, not because I was being dogmatic or anything, not because I didn't want to take the medication, but simply because my body, I just didn't need it. And then I started going to the gym regularly, and I totally changed my whole lifestyle. And I was like, that's it. I went to undergrad, and I got through undergrad in 3 years. I got through a 5-year pre-med program in 3 years. I finished it in 3 years. And everybody was like, go be a medical doctor. You could be like a surgeon. And I want to be a chiropractor. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm dedicating my life to. And shoot, man, if chiropractic can do this for me without drugs or surgery, I want to be able to do this for other people on the planet. And that's why I became a chiropractor.
Hmm. And now you're at that position where you're giving back and you're helping mentor and teach people how to transition at whatever step of career that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing that for the last, definitely solid for the last year, when I launched Thrive Chiropractic Coaching. And I really I never wanted to coach. I used to have coaches So I grew a pretty big practice, and I didn't grow a big practice because I was extra smart or anything like that. I grew a big practice. You guys that are watching this, write this down. I had one thing going for me. Do you want to know what that one thing was, James?
Certainty.
I had passion and certainty in the chiropractic principle. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that when I laid my hands on people, when I gave an adjustment that cleared out their nervous system, there was no question of if they were going to have a healing or if their body was going to heal itself. It was just a matter of when the body was going to heal itself. And so because I grew a larger side of the end of the practice scale there, people were always calling me and asking me to coach for them, like different coaching companies. And they're asking me to coach for them. And I was like, no, I don't want to coach. And then even when I would get a coach, they would end up hiring me to coach for them. And I never wanted to do it. I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And what happened was that I saw there was just a huge need. I want to say like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, when I was hiring associates for my own office, for my own practice, when I was hiring chiropractors, I noticed that the chiropractors that were coming out of school were different. They were different. They didn't have that certainty. They didn't have that passion. They didn't have that drive. Or if they did, it was being blanketed by fear.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle. Yeah, I seen a lot, just like you. You know, there's a difference between working with somebody that's been out for 15 years, and there's a difference between seeing somebody that's been out within the past 5 years. And I know that a lot of times the chiropractor comes out and they're like, gosh, I better be an associate. Otherwise, I don't know how to make it because, gosh, the overhead on the square footage, getting the EHR, getting the tables, getting the, like we could create a checklist like that's this big. And people could look at it and feel like, wow, how can I do that and take care of my loans that I already have? And take care of the mortgage on the house and a car payment, like all these things, like the expenses of like an upstart is just like, oh boy. So these people come in as career associates and they think that that's like, they basically went to school to give a job.
Yeah. And so I want to speak to that a little bit because I feel, and I could be totally off base here, but I've always felt like we have been taught in chiropractic that you had to open up your own practice. And so I want to speak to actually both sides a little bit because I feel like there are two kinds of chiropractors. I feel like there are the chiropractors who love servitude. They love serving humanity in chiropractic. They're really good chiropractors. They're phenomenal adjusters. They love their patients. They love the principle. They just have a passion for being a doctor. They have a gift for being a doctor. But they don't have a passion, a want, or desire to be a business owner. That's your second type of chiropractor. Your second type of chiropractor are those who love chiropractic. They love serving. They love taking care of their patients. They love the philosophy. And they also love being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. And both types of chiropractors are phenomenal. We need both types of chiropractors, James. I feel like everybody's been kind of lumped into this group of you have to open your own practice. And so I think that's also one of the first steps with your own mind is to, when you're asking your why, what is your why of wanting to open your own practice? Because sometimes I'll hear things, well, I want the freedom. Well, your practice is not going to give you freedom, especially in the beginning. Some people say, I want to open my own practice because I want to make more money. Well, that's not, just because you open your own practice doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make more money than being an associate or being a chiropractor in another office. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I find a lot of scenarios where people don't understand, like, just the overhead of paying for a parking spot.
Right.
let
Right.
alone having access to 6 parking spots.
Right. 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 So, and that's where we come back to clarity again, is getting clarity on what you really want and being honest with yourself. So many times we live our life and we all do this. We all, up to a certain point, will live our life based on the expectations of others. We live a life, we do things because we are expected to do things. Sometimes we even think we like things because we've been taught to like those things. And so the very first step, whether you're going to open a practice or you're going to become an associate, is to find out what it is that you really want. Not what your mom and dad wanted, not what your brother and sister wanted, not what your pastor wanted, but what is it that you really desire? Because if it's just to be a chiropractor, trust me when I tell you, there are boatloads of opportunities for really good chiropractors that don't want to open their business.
That's definitely important for people to know. And it's important for people to know that they have options.
Options. There's
And
10 different options.
yep. So check the box, talk to Dr. Nicole and let her help you. So say somebody is a lifetime associate, say they've been at it for 3 years, they get out of school and they're like, you know what? I know how to adjust now. I know how to fundamentally run a practice. I have the ability to do marketing. I know how to do that. I know how to do a day 1. I know how to do a day 2. Like, they know the fundamentals of, like, practice. What would you tell that person and guide them into potentially becoming their, an entrepreneur now instead of like a systems person?
Yeah. So once again, the first step is to get clarity, right? Clarity on what you want and where you want to go. But the second step is to actually becoming that person. So you have to have a model. So you have to figure out what it is that you want to create. And then you really want to find somebody that has created that already. I think I just saw somebody do a live on it today. It might have been Barbara Eaton, and I didn't listen to her whole live or whatever, but her title was "Let's Stop Recreating the Wheel," right? So find somebody that has done what you want to do and model them. That's probably going to be your next major step in getting you where you want to go quicker. You're going to get there whether you find somebody to model or not. But if you have a good mentor, you have a good coach, you have somebody that's been there before, you've had somebody that's done it before, you've had somebody that has had all the ups and downs before, they've seen it all, they've been through it all. You find somebody to model, you'll get there a lot quicker.
Really good, really, really great advice. And I know that there was a third type of conversation I wanted to have with you today. It was about somebody that just had a family, woman DC, had a baby, stepped away, raising baby, and say a year and a half, 2 years later, even she's like, you know what? I'm ready to go back in and become a chiropractor again, not just a mom. What advice would you give to that scenario?
Oh man, well, my first piece of advice is go for it. Is absolutely do it, go for it. If it's really in your heart to open your own practice and to be a businesswoman, to be an entrepreneur, then do it, then go for it. And okay, I have a lot of advice for these people. I have a lot of advice. I've been through a lot of shit, man. The first thing is be really selective about who you listen to and who you take advice from. So look at me, I'm giving advice and I'm telling you to be selective of who you take advice from. How funny is that, right? But be really selective in what comes in your ears and what you allow to filter in through your brain, because there's going to be people out there that they're not walking your walk. They're not in your shoes, right? They don't know what you've been through. They haven't had the experiences that you've had. And there are going to be people out there that are going to say, like, they're going to tell you all kinds of things. They're going to say, like, you can't do it. Or what about your family? Or what about your kids? Or they'll say even silly things. I've heard, like, women with high volume practices, they always end up in divorce and their kids always end up, a mess or something like that. That's not true. Like, these are all limiting beliefs, belief systems that are, that people are kind of given us, right? And none of that is true. You can have an extraordinary life with a beautiful marriage, a beautiful family, healthy children, and a really healthy practice where you're giving and you're loving and you're serving, and a practice that generates phenomenal revenue for you and your family and for the contributions that you want to make into the planet. So number one thing is be careful of who you're listening to, and also be cautious of who you share your dreams with.
Yeah, I mean, really real stuff there. So do you recommend this practitioner to jump into like a group practice, a solopreneur? Do you think they should go be an associate, or should you just say, like, look, tell me what you want and then we'll make that happen?
Yeah, so that's how I coach. is I say, tell me what your vision is, tell me what you want to create, and then I'll give you the tools to get you there. Because to tell somebody that they should go into a group practice or a multidisciplinary practice or a solo practice, I couldn't answer that question because it's different for everybody.
Yeah, and then you're going to say, so where do you want to live? And they're going to be like, oh, I don't know, somewhere by the ocean or somewhere by a big city, or I want to be in small town America. Like, you're going to get so many different variables. And what type of technique do you want to utilize? Now we're going down another path. Like, okay, so like building up like that dream reality to say, look, this is where I want to be. This is how I want to envision being a practitioner. And these are this is the model of practice I want to follow. I think it's really important to have that conversation, because you're right. People come out and they're confused. They're like, oh gosh, I have to start my own thing. Or they're like, my other choices, I go as an indentured servant and I do marketing every weekend and I build a practice for somebody else.
Yeah. So, there's so much to be said here in such short amount of time. Yeah, it's very individual for what somebody really wants to do. And what the other thing too, James, is that what a lot of people will do is when they decide that they want to open their own practice, they will join a practice management group. And not that there's anything wrong with practice management groups, because actually I joined a practice management group when I was still in chiropractic school. But what happens is that practice management group hands them the model. And the challenge comes with is if their vision, if the doctor's vision does not match the model that's handed to them, they have conflict, right? So the way that we do it is we say, what's your vision? Okay, now let's create the model that is congruent with your vision on how you want to practice. That makes sense?
Yeah. So it's 3 different groups they can choose from. Do it with you, do it yourself, or done for you, do it done with you, or do it yourself.
Right.
So we have to find out like what group that person wants to be a part of.
Right.
Do it yourself, done with you, done for you, but you have to obviously participate to that third model. But I think there's a lot of different like scenarios that people will come into, and that's what makes it interesting when it's such a unique situation for everybody. Um, so Thrive Chiropractic Coaching is what you do.
That's what I do. Yep.
Now, if people wanted to connect with you and they're like, "Hey, I'm a student, I need to get a job," how do you help them?
So, well, a couple of different ways. It really depends on exactly what they're looking for. But so if they want to open their own practice, then I literally start while people are in chiropractic college. I usually recommend if they want to open a practice, like right when they graduate or in a short approximate time after graduation, I recommend that they start 12 months before graduation, because that really gives us a really good chunk of time to be able to create a practice. Because what essentially we're doing is we're creating a practice in our mind, on paper, and then in the physical world. And yeah. And so then I would take them through every steps of creating the practice in their mind and on paper, so that when they're ready to go, they're off. And the people that open practices with us, they're already seeing new patients on day one. So we're getting ready to launch a practice right now, and they're already have patients like scheduled out, 5 new patients on day one. And that's because we teach them very strategic marketing. We start our marketing 8 weeks. We start our marketing campaign 8 weeks before opening day, right? And so that they're actually revenuing their very first week in practice instead of sitting there twiddling their thumbs.
Yeah, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So if people wanted to reach out to you and connect with you and become a client of yours, where should we send them to?
So they can reach out to me on Facebook, of course. So I'm Nicole Bonner on Facebook. They could private message me, and I don't take everybody on as a client. I only work with certain individuals. I only work with individuals that I'm absolutely sure or positive are wanting to open a practice. So the first question that I'm going to ask you is why? Do you want to open a practice? And so Facebook is definitely a good place to reach out to us. And we also have a website. So it's www.thrivechirocoaching.com. So there's a lot of great info on that website. And there's lots of great blogs too, information, like just value information on that site.
Well, I feel like we could have talked for 3 hours like Joe Rogan does. But the Chiro Hustle format's a 30-minute segment, and we're over that 30 minutes. But is there anything else that you wanted to touch on that I didn't ask you today?
Oh shoot, man. I don't know. I don't think so. I think we got a lot covered. And I would just say if there's anybody that wants help with even direction in opening a practice, or even some direction in whether you should associate or open a practice, reach out to me. I hop on calls all day long with people. So
Great. So reach out to Dr. Nicole Bonner at thrivechirocoaching.com. Check her out on Facebook. Send her a direct message. Dr. Nicole, your episode 583 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. We talked about students, associates, new grads, and re-entering back into chiropractic after starting a family today. We told your story, and I'm excited to see where this episode goes and how people interact with you. And I'm really, really thankful that you took some time out of your busy schedule of coaching clients to talk to people about what makes you unique in this chiropractic space.
thank you, James. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure to reconnect with you, and I look forward to the next time. I'm going to close out by telling everybody the same thing. You're one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a great day out there in New Jersey, Dr. Nicole. All right. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.